turn the recording back on, and I'll try and put the recording on YouTube as well, so it's easy to find. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump into the dreaded heparin protocol. The biggest problem with this is that many of you, this is the first time you've seen it. You have not been exposed to it. You weren't exposed to it in first or second semester, other than understanding, why a patient would be put on heparin, like what you're trying to treat. But from a drug calc standpoint, there's some challenges, and really the challenges just come down to understanding what the questions are asking you. So I'm going to try and help you out with that. So the way this works is, first of all, the where it says standard weight-based heparin protocol, and then you see numbers 1 through 15, that is just the protocol. It's a standard protocol. If you do a Google search for heparin protocol, you will see something that looks just like that, where you have a bunch of blanks that would be filled in. It is not your responsibility to fill in the blanks, meaning you do not need to indicate the CBC. I just want to make sure my microphone's on. Oh yeah. You do not need to indicate the CBC, the GAIAC stools, any of that stuff. That is not, or the neurochecks, you're not filling that in. You're answering the questions that are listed at the bottom that say, A, calculate the number of millimeters to administer for the bolus, B, calculate the infusion rate in milliliters per hour for the heparin IV drip, and then on down. The other things are just parts of the protocol, and it's a standard that you might see if you looked in other places. It tells you in 2 places how to kind of start this problem. At the very beginning, where it says question 25, protocol, bolus patient with heparin 80 units per kilogram body weight, and then start a drip at 18 units per kilogram per hour. So that tells you where to start. The next thing is, you can see that information repeated in step 10 of the protocol. Step 10 says bolus with 80 units per kilogram, start drip at 18 units per kilogram per hour. So it's repeated information. That wasn't done necessarily intentionally. It's just, that's kind of the standard, it seems like, for heparin protocols. I don't know if it's the only standard, but it's the only one I found when doing searches for it. So step 1 for question 25 is account for the patient's weight in kilograms. So you have a 110-pound patient, which is a 50 kilogram patient. And all I did was divide by 2.2. The next thing is, I'm just going to go back to the question where it says calculate the number of millimeters to administer for the bolus. So the bolus was 80 units per kilogram. I'd like to write it a different way. 80 units per kilogram. I like to write it this way so you can see what I'm eliminating as we move forward. 80 times 50 is 4,000 units. Now, if the question had said how many units should we administer for the bolus dose, you'd be done. It'd be 4,000 units. But it says how many milliliters do you administer. So now you have to look at the protocol to find the rest of the information you need to solve this problem. What you need is a way to go from units to milliliters, and you have that. If you go to step 2 in the protocol says heparin 25,000 units in 250 milliliters, half normal saline. Bolus dosage strength 1,000 units per milliliter. You're going, because we're calculating the bolus dosage strength, that's what we're going to start with, is the bolus dosage strength. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply here by the bolus dosage strength. I don't want units, so I'm going to put units on the bottom so I can get rid of it. And then the 1 milliliter. And then here you can see we eliminate our units, and I'm left with just milliliters. My answer for part A is 4 milliliters. I'm just going to subscribe this as A. Does Bridget, I know you were on earlier, but Jim or Michelle, do you see where I got the information to answer question A? Yep, you're welcome. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to highlight the information here because this is information that is standard for answering these types of questions. The only way I can really change this question is by changing the patient's weight. So if we had a patient that weighed something different, that would give us a different answer. But you would still convert it to kilograms, multiply by 80, and then divide by 1,000. That would be the steps for solving A. B is very similar. I'm going to take the same patient weight, and B tells me to calculate the infusion rate in milliliters per hour for the heparin IV drip. So what I need is to know what my initial infusion rate is supposed to be set at, and that's where you go back to either the beginning of the question where it tells you the protocol, or step 10 of the protocol where it says start drip at 18 units per kilogram per hour. So I'm going to put that in there, 18 units, and then kilogram hour. We get rid of kilograms, and then we get 900 units per hour. Again, with this, I don't want units per hour. I want milliliters per hour. So I have to now go back to my protocol. And that first thing I mentioned in step 2 of the protocol, that heparin 25,000 units and 250 milliliters, half normal saline, that's the information you use to convert units per hour to milliliters per hour. So I don't want units. So 25,000 units of heparin, 250 milliliters. Units is eliminated. I'm left with milliliters per hour, which is what I'm looking for. And the answer to this is 9 mil per hour. Now, on your test, this would be an example of one question. It will have 2 parts where you're going to have to calculate the bolus dose like you did in A, and then the drop rate like you did, or the flow rate, the infusion rate like you did in question B. Again, I'm going to box the things that are standardized. And then this refers to the infusion rate. So I'm just going to write in rate. Michelle, do you see where I got the information to answer this part of the question? Yep. Okay, good. Yep, you're welcome. I just want to make sure I'm addressing it. So the second part would be an example of a second question that you could potentially see on your exam. So like on your exam, you're either going to see A and B, or you're going to see C1, C2. Okay. You're not going to see all 4 of these questions. You're just going to see two of the top 2 or the bottom 2. That's where you're going to see. So in part C, it says after 6 hours, you check the patient's APTT, and you find that it's 43 seconds. When I go and I look in the boxed section, the boxed section is the APTT after 6 hours. And we look to see which range the 43 seconds resides in. And that's going to be step 12 of the protocol. Step 12 of the protocol says if it's that point after 6 hours, we're going to rebolus with 40 units per kilogram, and then we're going to increase the rate by 2 units per kilogram per hour. So let's work through that. So I'm going to start off with C1, and we still have the same patient, 50 kilograms. And then this time, instead of 80 units per kilogram, it's 40 units per kilogram. And that's because that's what it told me to do. That equals 2,000 units. We don't want units, we want milliliters. So I'm going to go back to the same bolus that we used before, the same bolus information that we used before. So I'm going to multiply it again by my bolus dosage, which was the 1,000 units of heparin per milliliter. That gets rid of units. My answer is 2 milliliters. Now you'll see that the 2 milliliters is exactly half of the 4 milliliters. Okay, so that's, that's essentially what you do is you would give them half the original bolus dose if they had an APTT of 43 seconds. For C, and then I'm going to box the standards again. And notice I'm just using the same bolus information. And guess what? When I do the next rate, I'm going to use the 250 over 25,000 units because that's what the protocol tells me to do. Now for C2, again, 50 kilogram patient. Now this one requires a little bit of thinking. So our original drip rate was what? 18 units per kilogram per hour, right? Well, we don't have 18, or now it told me to increase by 2 units per kilogram per hour. So I'm going to take 18 and I'm going to add 2 and I'm going to get 20 units per kilogram per hour. Do you see where I got the 20 from? All I did was add the 2 units that I increased it by to the original 18. So I get 20 units per kilogram per hour. That gives me 1,000 units per hour. And as I already mentioned, we're going to multiply by the 250 ml over the 25,000 units. Units cancel, kilograms cancel, and I'm left with now 10 ml per hour. If you thought you were just going to add 2 to the 9 ml per hour, like I did when I initially went through this protocol, that would be the wrong thing to do. You would be off by 1 milliliter per hour, but I don't know if that's enough or is significant enough for affecting the outcomes with your patient. But I would tell you that it is an indication that you did the problem wrong, and they would mark it off wrong. They're not looking for you to get it close to the answer. They want you to get exactly the answer. And again, the only thing I can really change for this question is the patient's weight. And obviously, if I change the patient's weight, that changes the answers as they would come out. Are there any additional questions concerning the heparin protocol? Okay, good. I'm glad. Thank you, Michelle. Okay. Yeah, this is kind of the doozy that's on this semester and last semester. Okay, so the in the third step, do you mean in the C2 area? It would be this here, assuming that it was an APT of 43 seconds in there. I'm getting your chats, Jimmer.
I was trying to voice chat. I think now I have it.
Yes, now I can hear you.
I think I'm good for the most part. As I said, I actually took this last semester and I'm retaking it. So I was just wanted a refresher because I'm terrible at math.
Oh, fair enough. Now, when I say the constants, as I'm blocking those, like for the C area, I almost said the C section, but you guys know what I mean. For these areas here, this is referring to that specific APTT of 43 seconds. So if it were an APTT of a different time, and if it fit within a different category, you would follow the protocol that was listed in there. Now, I can tell you from memory, I'm pretty sure I only ever used step 12 when I created the exams. And that was because step 12 gave you two different things to do. Notice in step 11, you just do the same thing with the bolus. So you would just rebolus with 4 ml. You wouldn't have to do any math with that. But then you would increase by 4 units per kilogram per hour, meaning you'd go from 18 to 22. And that would be how you would change that. But the boxes here, where I wrote bolus and rate, these are always the same because they're coming right off of the protocol. And the protocol will be provided to you. No one's expecting that you have that memorized. So. And again, any questions, just either say it or type it out, whatever you want to see worked out. If you don't have any questions, that's perfectly fine too. Yeah, good question, Bridget. Yeah, so that's what I would advise you to do is just choose any weight. And then and you can always if you, let's say you choose a weight and you want to work through this on your own, just email me what weight you used, and I can confirm your answers. So you can let me know what you use. You're welcome. And Jimmer, if you're looking for more review too, I'll end up posting like the earlier session I did. There was a few more questions, but pretty much it was just this asking to work out the heparin protocol.
That's cool. I was just looking at your YouTube stuff, and
Okay.
I probably have notes on this somewhere from last time. I'm more like, if I do the problem like 20 times, then I'll be fine. But
That's a great strategy.
yeah, any review is great for me, because math is like a foreign language, no matter how much I do it.
I think it's the curse of nurses.
It is. You're not wrong.
Dr. Rad.
Yes.
So I think the one I get confused is when you have to convert minutes to hours, I think, or hours to minutes.
Okay.
So maybe like, I think it's number 18 or,
Yeah, 18 is milliliter. It starts in milliliters per minute, and then it goes, and then it asks you to do milliliters per hour.
yeah.
Okay. Hold on one second, and I'll do that one for you, or at least explain it.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. So let me clear this out. So the when you're doing flow rates with these, the trick is just doing the conversion, and it's not as difficult as it sounds. It's just it just looks tricky when you're starting it. So question 18, all you're going to do is you're going to start with what is given, 120 milliliters, 90 minutes, but it wants it in milliliters per hour. So all you need to do is convert minutes to hours. When you do that, once you plug that into your calculator, it just comes down to 80 milliliters per hour.
So I think I would convert 90 minutes to 1.5. Do you get the same answer?
You will, yes.
Is that okay?
Yeah, so a variation, like you just said, 120 milliliter over 1.5 hours, and that you'll still get the 80 mil.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yep, you're absolutely welcome. That's a very good thing. So don't be discouraged, or I always say there's more than one way to get to the right answer. I also usually give this as an example. Sometimes you'll see a time that's less than an hour, like let's say 120 milliliters in 30 minutes. And then you would do the same thing. I always show it this way, but you could also just in your head, you say like, okay, well, if I'm going to give 120 in 30 minutes, in an hour, I would have given 240 milliliters. I think the sticking point sometimes is, you're only giving 120 milliliters, but you need to set the infusion rate because the infusion pump is only going to be read in milliliters per hour, which is the challenging thing. Now, the other thing is, I don't know. I guess if there's tube feeding going on, I guess there is a pump associated with that. Obviously, I sit there and I think about pushing or giving somebody 120 milliliters of Ensure just to drink up, but obviously if they're being tube fed, they're unconscious. So.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Do you mind if we just run through 24 real quick?
Not at all.
Okay, all right, thanks.
No problem. Okay. So 24 is just one of those questions that just will be something to aggravate you, because the real answer is when the alarm goes off, right? That's how you know when to change the bag or when it's done. The IV alarm goes off or the monitor flashes. But what they want you to do is just a scenario where you're calculating basically how many hours will pass by. So if you start off with 1,000 milliliters, and if it's infusing at 50 milliliters per hour, this is how you would set up that question. So 50 goes into 1,000 20 times. So it's 20 hours. If it started at 8 a.m., you're just going to do 20 hours from 8 a.m. on Monday. So the way I always say is 20 hours is really close to 24 hours. So 8 a.m. Tuesday would be 24 hours. And just subtract 4. And so Monday or Tuesday at 4 a.m. is how you arrive at your answer. In which case, hopefully you're not still there. Otherwise, somebody messed up the schedule.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Yeah, it's fine. I mean, the where these get a little bit tricky is like when they tell you like, 12 and a half hours or 12 hours and 45 minutes, and they're trying to be a little bit more specific. But just, imagine you have just take the time that's closest and then just work up or down from that time. So if it were like 28 hours, I would still do 24 hours Tuesday and then add 4 and say 12, noon.
Gotcha. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Are you doing 2 of these sessions again on Thursday, correct?
Yes. So for your section, I have 2:30, and then I'm sorry, 1:15, and then 5 o'clock.
Okay. I think what I'm going to do is run through some of these on my own with some of my notes, and then I'll probably come to both reviews on Thursday also.
Sure.
And then whatever I'm struggling with, that way I can be more specific.
Yeah, that's a good strategy. Yeah. And then also, if for whatever reason you miss one of those reviews, by all means, email me and I'll make sure I address your question. And then you can hop on the Zoom at any time. So don't feel like you have to be there right at the start and into the finish. So whenever you want to come in, it's good.
Okay, great, man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you so much.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Okay. Yep.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Ed. I appreciate it.
You're welcome, Michelle. Good luck
All
on
right.
your test.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Hi, Sarah. Oh, never mind.